Outlaw Sports is brought to you by Molson Canadian, made from Canada, and Rocky Mountain Barbecue, Alberta barbecue cuisine at its best. Well, Grant Pollock, let's talk about the Stampeders' demise up in Edmonton over the weekend. You know what? It was disheartening to watch the Stampeders shoot themselves in the foot constantly. They had some opportunities to win this game. John Hufnagel says the turnover by Drew Tate was not the turning point in the game, and I'm going, how in the hell did you figure that out? Because that would have given, that's a 10-point swing. At least on the minimum, they had momentum, they had possession. With that, they lose minimum field goal, and that turns into that 77-yard touchdown run, and the Stamps really didn't recover.
I think John Hufnagel knows it did make an effect on the game. He's trying to protect his young quarterback, I'm sure of that. Because you're absolutely right. If that fumble didn't take place, who knows what would have happened. They wouldn't have had a 22-point, the Eskimos that is, 22 points in the second quarter. But let's look over this game first of all. Disappointing on how the Stamps played, because it looked like the old Stamps of June and July, August. It did not look like the Stamps we had seen in the last 3 games that gave us hope. It didn't look like the offense that was clicking under Drew Tate. So that's why I'm disappointed. What I saw, Mike, was a team that I had seen do that on a regular basis during the regular season. I thought they had got rid of that, out of their system. Penalties wasn't going to be a factor. Fumbles, interceptions, all that kind of stuff was a thing of the past. That's what disappointed me most, that the old Stampeder style of the beginning, first half of the season, crept back into the game plan.
Well, Grant, there's a few things that I've been preaching all along. That offensive line and defensive line, they aren't very good. They need to be changed. You know, both quarterbacks didn't have much time. You look at what Drew Tate was doing. You know, they got away a little bit from giving corners the ball, I thought, too. And to me, you get that guy outside, let him run. The thing about offensive...
And not just John Cornish, if I could interrupt, because he did have a pretty good game.
Sure,
Was it 127, 147? He had over 100 yards rushing, which is good. But where was Lawrence Coker? I thought this guy was a speed guy that was going to make a difference. It wasn't Cornish just getting rid of Joffrey Reynolds, but it was the combination of Coker in there, too. He didn't do much either. Putting him up the middle, a speed guy, I thought was a bad use of his talents. But the passing game, Mike, didn't Stamps and passing, wasn't what we've seen for a million years? It goes hand in hand. I know it's deteriorated over the course of the season because of personnel, but the passing game was non-existent. Why?
Well, I think the Stampeder receivers really aren't as good as people give them credit for. Sure, they got some exciting guys. I mean, you look at what Forzani can do, but really...
He's not good enough for prime time, Mike.
No, well, he is for just one thing, Grant. There's nobody faster. Just let him go out there and give him the ball. Nick Lewis took that helmet to the knee, and with that,
so why was he playing?
Exactly.
Because you could see he was hobbling. It looked like a guy playing flag football. You know, just kind of, I gotta play because he's got the ego. There's nobody else in the sidelines because guys couldn't make it for the game. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't understand that, Grant.
Even R.J. Franklin or Jabari Arthur on a more regular basis be better?
I mean, they're not as good, but when he's hurt, you know, it was obvious.
So that's a question to ask Hufnagel and Dave Dickinson. And I hope somebody asks them before they clear out for the regular season. Also, Kenyon Rambo, since he injured that knee, was it 3 years ago, something like that in BC, he's not been the same player. He's had a terrible season because of injuries or age. Isn't Landon Talley at least a better player? I mean, Drew Tate was saying, oh, I can't believe this guy Rambo, what he does when he doesn't have the ball. Okay, but still, Landon Talley to me would be a better player than Rambo.
I think you go for the experience, Grant, with the vet. You hope that he can bounce back.
Rambo's not the same player.
I know he's not great. He's had one good game since the whole thing. I hear where you're going with this. But, you know, they only threw a couple of balls to him the whole game, did they not? He had one catch late in the game.
Because he probably couldn't get open. That's one thing I noticed when TSN had the wide angle on it. When I was watching Burris, I'm saying, come on, roll out, do something, throw it. Don't just get sacked. But it seemed like a lot of receivers weren't open. I give a lot of credit. You know, here we are in Calgary. I give a lot of credit to the Eskimo defense. Kavis Reed, after the game, said, we shut down the passing lanes. We wanted to shut down their passing lanes, and I think they did that extremely well because the Stamps receivers weren't getting open. They're not as good. That's where a lot of changes have to come in the offseason.
You hear
Big
that
time.
phone?
Who's that?
Is your wife calling again?
I thought I thought it was maybe Nick Lewis or Rambo.
Pissed. But you know, Grant, they had to go back into practice and work on the routes. They weren't disciplined. So I think offensively, and even when Henry Burris came in, you know, 16-point deficit and wanted to march, he was doing. You could tell Henry was playing desperate football. He looked a little hesitant in his throwing the way he did, but.
Hesitant in his throwing, Mike.
He was, Grant.
He continually throws into the dirt, like we saw in June, like we saw in July, like we saw in August.
He didn't do it in July.
No.
Okay, he was hesitant, Grant.
Okay,
It wasn't.
July he didn't
It wasn't the old Henry. But let's look at Coker in the first series dropped a wide open pass, and Nick Lewis at the goal line dropped a wide open pass as well.
You know, you talk about the fumble by Drew Tate as being the game killer. Yes. That drop pass by Nick Lewis when they were threatening to score.
He was on the goal line.
Was huge.
Yeah.
Was huge. Almost, and people aren't talking about that as much as the Drew Tate fumble. So, having said all that, yes, when we tear it apart, the Stamps made these mistakes. But really, if you're honest about it, Stampeder fans, this team is what they are. This team, what we saw on Sunday in Edmonton, is what we saw on a regular basis over the regular season. They're just not good enough to win. This is probably what the Stamps should do. Finish third, pretty good record, but lose out and make too many mistakes. This will have to be rectified in the offseason. So I'm not totally surprised what happened.
Remember when I said?
When did you say it?
I said early, a few months ago, I thought maybe the team had quit playing for John Huffnagel. I still believe that. I really do.
Well,
and I think
what he... think they have the talent in
maybe
which
not.
You could say that, Mike.
But I think he salvaged somewhat of by putting Drew Tate in there. There was a rallying point. They won a few games, but at the bottom end. And it's not like Edmonton's a great football team, Greg.
I don't think they're that great of a football.
No.
I don't think they're a very good football team.
Ricky Ray in this game.
Offensively, they're not that good.
Ricky Ray managed the game. I mean, they've got some great receivers, and they got a bad offensive line, and Messam gives them a decent running attack.
Decent.
But you know
That's
what?
all.
That game was winnable. It was winnable, and that's the frustrating
I don't think
thing.
the Stamps are talented as much as we think they are. We've just finished saying the receiving core is not very good. The offensive line's not very good. The defensive line's not very good. You've got a rookie quarterback who's not even a full season rookie quarterback. And you've got a new offensive coordinator in Dave Dickinson who I think has made mistakes too. Is he in his first full year or second year, depending on what you want to call that job description in the first year? This team isn't ready to win right now. I think they will be. So as much as we want to criticize this team for what they did in the semifinal, this team is not good enough to win today.
One final point. The penalties. We talk about an undisciplined team, but what about the coaching staff? Too many men on the field penalties. One late in the game really hurt this club. I mean, you just can't do that.
Well, didn't we see too many men on the field a few times over the regular season?
Yes.
I think too. Yeah. But in the big game, in the semifinal, in a playoff game, 13 men in the huddle.
They were paying tribute to
uncalled for.
Kavis Reed.
Yeah, right. From the Grey Cup.
That's right.
Do you want to take a break? Is there some specifics I want to talk about?
Sure, yeah. Okay. Short break. We'll come back, more football.
Can utility be a poster? Can utility keep you up at night, dreaming? Can utility put thoughts in your head? Depends on what you mean by utility. Introducing the new Porsche Cayenne and Cayenne S Hybrid. Lighter, more agile, more efficient. More Porsche than ever.